Texas is home to the largest population of feral hogs in the United States, estimated at nearly 3 million, causing nearly $100 million in damage to the agricultural sector each year. In response, Texas has resorted to everything from trapping and gun hunting to more daring methods, chasing wild hogs by helicopter. This measure is not only an effort to control the herd, but has also become popular as an adventure tourism service for shooters who love challenges. Of course, not everyone can participate. Pilots need a valid Federal Aviation Administration pilot license, and shooters like me need a specialized license, such as an aerial wildlife management permit. With all the necessary paperwork and careful preparation, we began our trip. The weather today is quite nice, clear, little wind and light sunshine, perfect for a helicopter hunt. From above, I could see dense tracks of wild boars running across the sand. Then a herd of about 10 pigs came into view. I signaled the pilot to lower altitude, raised my gun, and pulled the trigger repeatedly. One by one, the pigs were hit, falling down one by one on the road. It couldn't have been a better start. Still excited, the pilot suddenly pointed to the northeast. Another flock appeared. Then the gun was loaded again. The helicopter glided low. I calmly aimed, starting with the last ones in line. Each shot was decisive. A new batch of prey was taken down. Started to move into an area with sparse bushes, but still open enough to observe. Wild boars are extremely alert and slow to react to the air. So, once I spotted my prey, especially those running alone, it took me less than 2 minutes to finish them off cleanly. I strained my eyes to find every trace. Then suddenly, another herd appeared. It seems that the helicopter's low altitude to reduce glare caused a lot of noise, which alerted the pigs. They immediately scattered and ran in different directions, making aiming difficult. I thought the drama had died down, but as the helicopter tilted into a new curve, I caught a glimpse of a pig in the middle of the open. Immediately, the pilot tilted the helicopter slightly towards the target. I seized the opportunity, steadied my gun, and pulled the trigger. Starting to turn golden. We had to make the most of our last few minutes as the helicopter hunt only lasted until dusk. I aimed at the largest leader and pulled the trigger. I successfully took down the prey with just one shot. Meanwhile, my friend Jake had already managed to kill a few other members of the pack. video ends here. How do you feel about today's hunt? Leave your comments in the comment section, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to follow the next dramatic hunts. I took down my first wild hog right here in this forest 14 years ago. Back then, I was using my father's old rifle, hands trembling, missing the first 2 shots. And yet today, I'm back in the same place. The gear has changed. My experience has deepened. But the thrill of stepping into the woods, that stays exactly the same. The heavy rain 3 days ago had turned many forest roads into sticky mud bogs. But we had anticipated that, so the team moved in using a swamp buggy. While on the buggy, we took the chance to discuss strategy. The wind was blowing from the southeast, and in just about an hour, it could shift as the sun rose higher. Luckily, within the first 15 minutes, our target appeared. Nathaniel signaled to stop the vehicle, then calmly raised his rifle. The hog was only about 15 meters away, not a problem for him. A single, clean shot rang out. The target went down instantly. Right after that opening shot, we split up according to plan. I looped around downwind, taking cover behind a dense thicket that gave me a clear view ahead without revealing my position. The team formed a half-moon formation, closing in on a group of hogs peacefully foraging ahead of us. I raised my gun and squeezed the trigger. The hog dropped on the spot. About an hour later, we arrived at the trap site we'd set up the day before, a low-lying area thick with grass and shrubs, perfect for hogs to stop and feed. Just as we predicted, they were there. From a rocky outcrop overlooking the site, we saw the hogs nosing around the trap, unaware they were in our sights. A loud crack shattered the stillness. The spotted hog screamed, then quickly went limp. Just 10 minutes later, we reached the next ridge. As soon as we arrived, Nathaniel spotted a target. I sprinted to the opposite side to set up a blocking position. Bang! The hog bolted downhill, funneled into a narrow slope. One clean shot. My bullet struck a shoulder. On our way back down the mountain, I unexpectedly spotted another hog. A dark blur shot across the trail. So fast, I didn't even have time to react. After a successful hunt, we returned with the spoils piled on the vehicle. The meat was divided into smaller portions. The shoulder and ribs were set aside for a morning barbecue in the garden. That's the end of the video. What did you think of today's hunt? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to follow our next intense chase.
Shoot him.
Ever since I was a kid, I've been captivated by terrifying tales of monstrous wild boars, fearsome beasts lurking in the shadows. But instead of being afraid, I felt driven. Driven to learn, train, and become a fearless hunter. Tonight, my team and I are diving deep into their territory, into the dark corners where these ferocious creatures roam. A tense showdown is about to unfold, and only the boldest will prevail. Wild boars are powerful animals, but at night, they become even more dangerous. Limited visibility gives them the edge, and their instincts to hunt, flee, or fight kick in with full force. Some people have been chased for hundreds of meters through thick forests. Others suffered serious injuries for underestimating their speed and aggression. In China alone, over 10 wild boar-related incidents occurred in just the last 2 months of 2024, resulting in 7 casualties. Aware of how brutal these night warriors can be, our hunting team set out early to reach a familiar quarry, well prepared for tonight's mission. In the pitch-black darkness, we relied entirely on our scopes to track every move. It didn't take long before the first boar appeared. I fired quickly and took it down, our first successful hit of the night. Sweeping the scope to the left, we spotted another group of wild boars foraging silently in the distance. I picked one, isolated in the middle, and pulled the trigger. The heavy thud of its fall startled the rest, and they scattered. We kept adjusting and firing, determined to bring down more. We remained still in the open field, scanning patiently until another herd approached. Their course first stood out starkly under the moonlight. They were massive, arched backs, stocky legs, and solid muscle. I took careful aim, and with a clean shot, dropped one right where it stood. The others bolted, but we managed to land a few more hits. Still, none of us were disappointed. Hunting is never an easy stroll, it's a relentless battle. As the night deepened, more and more boars appeared, bolder and more aggressive. But fatigue was setting in, so we made the call to head back. Yet on the way home, we couldn't help but stop. An overwhelming number of boars had taken over a freshly seeded field. Gunshots echoed through the night as boar after boar fell from well-placed shots. For us, seasoned in the war against wild boars, hunting isn't just about protecting crops, it's an unquenchable passion. Though the night's thrills still lingered in our minds, a new challenge awaited us the very next day. As usual, we gathered in the afternoon to prep before heading back for dinner, gearing up for the real action after dark. By around 10 p.m., we reached our ambush point. The bait had been set, and sure enough, the first boar came sniffing in. As it stepped into the kill zone, I squeezed the trigger. One shot, one kill. But that bait didn't just lure one. It attracted a whole herd. The biggest and strongest were always our priority. 2 well-aimed shots brought down 2 more. We paused to catch our breath before the next round of pursuit. After regrouping, we moved past a small garden near the edge of the field. Through the scope, we spotted another herd hiding behind thick foliage. We had to move closer, and when the moment was right, I opened fire. The booming gunshot sent the herd fleeing. One particularly large boar wasn't so lucky. Back at the same field, the boars had returned. I locked in on the alpha, by far the most destructive, and took aim. But our wild boar pursuit wasn't over yet. On the far side of the field, the herd had returned again, scavenging for leftover crops. There they were, boars streaming in from all directions. This was the moment we were waiting for. The entire team moved in for the takedown. During the day, wild boars tend to stay hidden or move slowly. But when darkness falls, they grow bold. If you're thinking of joining a night hunt, make sure you're equipped and prepared. A single misstep can turn the hunt into a nightmare. Did the thrill of the chase get your adrenaline pumping? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more epic hunts coming your way.
The quiet countryside of South Alabama has been haunted by gunfire in recent years. It's farmers chasing wild hogs away from their farms and keeping their numbers in check. They destroy crops, ravage fields, chew up irrigation systems, and sometimes even attack livestock. Many times, standing amid the mounds of earth that have been dug up, rows of corn that have collapsed as if they've been crushed by a tractor, I felt a bitterness that chokes me to the core. I knew that if we didn't take action, the wild boars would cost us everything we owned. So I and the farmers in the area formed a wild boar hunting team and hunted wild boars every week. Today, like the previous hunts, we gathered at the edge of the forest. We split into groups and patrolled in different directions. Accompanying me were Rick and Clayton, my close friends and quite experienced in hunting wild boar. Suddenly, we heard a rustling sound. A big fat wild boar appeared. The wild boar seemed to feel no danger. It slowly walked and wallowed in the puddle. I held my breath, aiming and hitting its vulnerable spot. A loud explosion rang out, as if tearing the silence of the forest apart. The wild boar collapsed instantly. The sound of dogs barking echoed in the bushes. We knew that something was coming. Oh my God, be careful. Rick quickly raised his gun and fired. We were still shaking, our hearts pounding like drums, because this crazy boar almost attacked us. Wild boars are very aggressive. They can attack hunters if they feel dangerous. Therefore, we need to keep a safe distance to avoid being attacked by them. The safe distance to shoot wild boars should be applied at over 100 meters if at close range. We also need to have quick reflexes to deal with wild boars in all situations. At noon, while we were resting, we heard a series of strange noises coming from the east. As we focused our attention, a wild boar appeared behind a mound of earth. Rick gave the signal to shoot, and we quickly raised our guns. After a few gunshots, the wild boar was completely defeated. After harvesting the wild pigs, we continued moving deeper into the mountains. The canyons in Alabama have a higher density of trees, creating favorable conditions for wild pigs to breed and thrive. In the deep mountains of Alabama, The sound of owls and frogs creates a strange harmony and natural atmosphere of the wilderness that you cannot feel in the city. The hunting dogs are still constantly searching for wild boar shelters. From the drone, we can observe the location and number of a herd of wild boars. The wild boars were exhausted from being chased by hunting dogs, so we aimed at tricky positions and successfully took down quite a few wild boars. In the afternoon, we moved to the cattle pasture and prepared to finish the hunt. Clayton suggested setting up an ambush there to see if we could catch any more wild boars. After only about 30 minutes of searching, we discovered large wild boars running across the field. Wild boars love to dig up the soil in areas where cattle are grazing. Their digging activities also inadvertently reduce the grazing area for cattle, causing damage to farmers like us. So, exterminating wild boars is the most feasible measure we need to take. It may be a long battle, but we will fight to the end to protect our crops. Today's video ends here. How do you feel today? Please comment below to let us know. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel.
Late at night, cold winds blew through the deserted fields outside the town, bringing with them a cold and wild feeling. Under the dim moonlight, Oliver and I picked up our bags, ready for a challenging wild boar hunt. We had hunted together at night many times, and they were all wonderful experiences. This trip required not only courage, but also vigilance and survival instinct. If you want to know what interesting things will happen, follow us now. Just as we were about to set off, a bold idea suddenly popped into my head. I wanted to use my own body to lure the wild boars closer. It sounded crazy. Oliver looked at me with a mixture of surprise and concern when I shared this idea. With the desire to conquer, I convinced my companion to carry out the plan. I sat quietly by the dense bushes, a loaded gun in my hand, my eyes tensely watching every movement. From a distance, the wild boars began to move, as if they had sense of a presence. Their dark skin was mottled with color, blending perfectly with the darkness. They moved towards in a herd, wariness unable to hide their curiosity. I could hear the growls coming from their throats, the characteristic sound of wild boars cautiously exploring their surroundings. A few minutes later, the wild boars appeared in front of me, very close, sharp fangs glinting in the moonlight, ready to tear apart anything that stood in their way. They stood there and looked at me, their small but bright eyes. My mind was struggling between two thoughts. Should I shoot immediately or let them come even closer? Then the wild boars faced the muzzle of my gun. Seizing the opportunity, I shot down the first one. The sound was as clean as the bullet cutting through the air. Immediately after, I adjusted my gun to fire a second shot, before the other wild boars could run away. Our risky game ended like that. The result was the first two wild boars lying at our feet. After a few tense moments, we decided to walk along the grasslands to find the wild boars. In the quiet night, the sound of wild boars echoed. A wild boar with a distinctive spotted coat appeared. As the boar moved out of the bushes, its eyes were alert, and its speed was also relatively fast. Oliver started his mischievous prank again, calling the boar several times in a row. A strange sound suddenly rang out, attracting its attention. It stood still to observe, but that was also an opportunity for Oliver to shoot. So I shot to the head finished of the wild boar. It struggled for a while and then lay still, so we had another great trophy. Immediately after that, we moved to a position next to a pond. There would definitely be wild boars coming here to drink water. But this was also an ideal ambush location. As expected, a wild boar that had probably just finished drinking water was leisurely returning to the field. As it passed in front of me, I immediately opened fire to take it down. The fatal shot knocked the boar down. I had no chance to fire back. Tonight we had a few trophies, all of them extremely large. However, Oliver said he wanted to stop by his family's cow farm nearby. That's why we appeared here, next to the cows. Not only that, mixed with the cows, we also discovered boars rummaging through leftovers. The boars, with their huge size, thick fur and sharp eyes, didn't care much about our presence, even when I held a gun and stood right next to them. Until a soul discovered us, it seemed to have realized the danger. It continuously let out a warning growl, but it was too late. It had already entered my sights. As soon as it moved to an open space, I immediately opened fire and shot it down. This farm, wild boars were rummaging. We didn't say anything. Many people might mistake this for a herd of pigs raised on the farm. If you witness terrible destruction when they plowed up the whole ground, you will understand why we had to hunt these pigs. In the midst of the wild boar noise, I spied another big fat boar. It was running fast across the grass, and it seemed to have sensed the danger as well. She ran back and forth in panic I immediately took the opportunity to shoot. Headshot caused it to collapse and struggled with painful cries before it became completely still. Another big boar. It seemed that all the boars in the area were this color. The game wasn't over yet, as Oliver and I had some unexpected mischief. He placed a loudspeaker that emitted a high-pitched screech right at the location where the boar had been shot. Soon the whole herd was attracted, and they quickly ran towards the screech. When the herd reached the top of the hill, they recognized the danger sign. Immediately, the herd turned around and ran away. Although the original plan didn't really work, I still managed to shoot and kill a boar when it stopped to observe. After midnight, we had to end the hunt because we had shot a lot of wild boars today, and of course, I will need some time to process these trophies. Thank you for following our journey. Please share your opinions in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel.